Well, very good. Good to see everybody. Thanks for coming out on a nice eastern Montana morning. You know? I saw Ed he's from Miles City, so it's kind of a Custer County kind of morning, I think. Really good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. Dean Bowman, Sandy. Really appreciate the snow removal on the walkways and out in the parking lot.
Thank you. They sure work hard. They come in at 4 in the morning on snowy mornings, and so I will pass on your thanks.
Please do, please do. Some of us are getting on, and really appreciate it. Let's see what else is coming here. I saw John Seck just back from Washington, D.C. We call it Mordor sometimes. John, how'd you do back there?
Here, I'll come up. So
we're a two-mic party.
Good morning, everyone. Just returned from Washington, D.C. Landed in the Helena Regional Airport yesterday. No problem. We are so fortunate to have an airport of the quality that we have here in Helena. Let's give them a round of applause. I was in D.C., began Friday. All of the Catholic college presidents in the United States meet once a year in D.C., and it was pretty cool. We began with a reception at the residence of the Irish ambassador, and then got down to business on Saturday. We had the papal nuncio with us, who is the Pope's designee in Washington, as well as a number of other key folks talking about the issues that are facing us today. That meeting then continued with the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities. That's a 1,400 member group representing independent nonprofit institutions across the country like Carroll College. I have the pleasure of serving as the national chairman for student aid. That term will end this year on June 30th. We had some fantastic interaction during that time. John Thune, the new Senate Majority Leader, met with us, and also Tim Walberg, the new chair for Education and Workforce, met with us, and we had some great conversations. I'll sum it up with this. Education across the board, public and private education, and in our case, higher education, it's about the future of our country, and it's about the future security of our country and the ability for us to compete on a global scale. And so we wanted to basically address the importance of student aid, things like Pell Grants. You heard me talk before about the fact that thanks to the Pell Grants, any student in Montana who is Pell eligible can go to Carroll College tuition free. We couldn't do that without federal support. That's incredibly important. And just the impact that the federal government plays. I mean, Carroll College, for example, and our students receive about $6.9 million a year in federal assistance. And that's all through student grants. And without those dollars, we would not be able to provide the quality of education that we provide. And one of the things when I met with our 2 senators and 2 congressmen, one of the statistics that really struck home with them is the fact that Carroll College, for example, well, 60% of our students come from outside of Montana. 5 years after graduation, 72% of our graduates are working in Montana. So it's a net importer of talent. That got their attention because everyone is concerned about workforce and everyone is concerned about the future viability of the state of Montana. So it was a great trip, and I am just absolutely euphoric to be back in Helena, Montana. Thanks.
Hey, let's take the mic. Give it to Annie. Thank you, John. And, you know, within the Catholic colleges and independent colleges, John's a real leader. I could probably say more, but we really appreciate you sharing the results of your visit with us. Kind of what I hear is that the flow of funds to individuals is not going to be interrupted, and I sure hope that's the case with the Pell Grants and higher education. You know, John mentioned the airport, and Jeff Wattecamper is with us from the Helena Regional Airport. Jeff, what's going on out there? He's got the biggest plows in the world.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Dr. Seck, for your support and the kind words. I really appreciate that very much. And yeah, it's kind of the same at the airport as it is, you know, with Sandy's crew. Our folks get out there at 3, 4 in the morning, and sometimes they're there all night, around the clock, trying to keep the airport open, not only for airlines, but medevacs and different things like that. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on at the airport. You might have seen a couple of weeks ago, we announced Denver service is going to increase to 3 flights a day. United Airlines is adding that. We're really excited about that.
Yeah,
great news. We're really, thank you. We're still working on, we're talking to every airline out there and trying every angle we can to squeeze anything we can out of the airline system. And so we're really working hard on Delta. And thank you again, Dr. Seck. We've got kind of a personal connection with one of the vice presidents of Delta Airlines, and Dr. Seck reached out to him and had a conversation. So, which is very helpful, because then they're not always just hearing from me, because they always hear from airport directors want more flights. So if you know, community members do that, that helps a lot. We've got so many members of the community helping us. You know, even Brian, his crew at MBAC, Callie at the Chamber, Andrea at Visit Helena, and so many. And it's really a collaborative effort. We appreciate so much everybody's support for doing it, whether it's financial or other things. And so we're really working hard to try and get flights reinstated. Like I said, we're working hard to get that Minneapolis flight back from Delta Airlines. One thing I would like to clarify, because in going through the community, people have asked me, like with the third daily Denver flight, folks would say, well, how come, you know, why do we want more of that? Why didn't you get Chicago service or something else? And the answer is, well, we did try to get those. We're trying to get any of those other things. In fact, when we met with United, that's what we've been lobbying them for, was Chicago service, since we don't have Minneapolis on the Delta lines. And they looked at it and said, well, that could be a possibility, but they really felt like having 3 a day through Denver, that connects you with their entire system, all 3 banks that go worldwide out of there. And so they said, you know, we feel that's more, that's the better thing to do initially, but still looking at other opportunities, whether it's Chicago, San Francisco, some of their other hubs that they serve. And it's no different with any of the airlines. We have those same conversations. But anyways, that's all I've got. But thank you again for the opportunity, and appreciate everybody's support.
Well, thank you for being here this morning. What else did I see? I see Ben Kuiper was reelected as chair of the Helena Citizens Council. Is that right, Ben? Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to say tonight, but thanks.
Burden of office is waiting.
I don't know about that, but I'm glad to be on for another year. So yeah, if you have any suggestions for us or any ideas that you want to bring forward to the city, feel free to reach out to me. There's also 2 commissioners in the room, so either way, we'd like to hear from you. So thank you.
Very good. Congratulations, Ben. Good. We're in good hands with you, and I understand the roster's about full in terms of people. So, Dan.
Last night I was fortunate to go out to Sugar Hospital. They were hosting the Native Caucus and doing walkthroughs of that facility. And it was a real eye-opener for them members of the state legislature. None of them had ever been through that hospital before. And they didn't realize that their average is about 15 to 17% of their population is Native, and the real need for that to be there. And the biggest eye-opener was there. They've been open for 2 years. Yeah. I don't know where the heck we've been. But they're doing a fantastic job. They're not fully, they still have one wing they can open up. But it's, they spend most of their time just educating them on the jobs they do. And one of the things that they really emphasized is that they try to do nothing but Montana kids. And they've served all 56 counties this year. You know, so they're doing a fabulous job out there. And they didn't spend much time telling them how important it is for the Medicaid reimbursement rate to go up and to have that extended, because most of those kids are there because of that. That's the only way they're going to pay for it. So it was a real educational experience, and if you reach out to your legislator, tell them to really look really hard about that Medicaid expansion, and because it affects some young kids immensely.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Dan, because that's been my understanding, that Medicaid expansion has really opened the door for Chaudert to be able to serve Montana kids and especially kids from Indian country. So I'm sure that was a real eye-opener for the Native Caucus. Emily, you did the count, right?
Yep, well, we've still got one more day to count people,
Wow.
and we've got, the point in time survey goes for 1 week, so we started last Thursday and we'll go through today, so. It was busy on Thursday. We were out driving around counting cars and campers. We have a lot of people living in campers in campgrounds around town. It was a lot. Yeah, we were surprised to see as many as we did. I don't know if we were surprised, but it's a lot. And we'll wrap up today with all of the shelters and transitional living facility counts. So this will be the last day to get people counted. Jeff has been out with Rad and Ryan, the street outreach person from Good Samaritan, driving around into the mountainous areas, counting the camps that exist out in the community. There's one out past the Last Chance Chapel off of Birdseye, and just a lot of people tucked away, still living out in the mountains in this cold. So they know where they are, and they're going out to count them. They are very creative in the way that they live, and they stay warm. Even when it's 8 below at my house this morning. Wow. So that's wrapping up today. We also are on Friday at our office at United Way. We'll be doing, we had the community health assessment last fall. We're turning that into the community health improvement plan now. And so the first part of that will happen, the housing conversation will happen Friday at the United Way office from 9 to 11 a.m. So anybody that wants to be a part of that planning can come to the office at United Way. On February 19th, the chronic disease conversation will happen from 10:30 to 12:30, and then that will roll into the behavioral health conversation from 3 to 5 on February 19th. Both of those will happen at St. Peter's Health. Looks like chronic disease will happen in the Education Center, rooms 2 and 3, and behavioral health will happen somewhere in the Education Center, it doesn't say. And then on March 20th, all of those conversations will get wrapped up into one big meeting, and we'll actually create the community health improvement plan with the goals for those 3 big areas. March 20th from 3 to 5 at St. Pete's Education Center to finalize that plan. So all the community health improvement plan conversations are happening so that we can create the goals around how we can keep moving forward in those conversations. Those have been the big 3 topics for the last several years. We have made progress in those areas, but they continue to be the big 3 topics, so we'll keep moving along. If anybody's interested in helping with those conversations, that anybody in the public is welcome to those meetings.
Very good. Thanks, Emily. Well, I hope Jeff was packing around some sleeping bags with him. Boy, it'd be tough. It would be difficult anymore. I assume all of us are warm and cozy at night, and we're very fortunate. But I know St. Paul's has got a great sleeping bag type of giveaway. Our Redeemers does too. All right. Well, thanks, Em. Thanks for doing this.
Jim, we've got Mary Ann has her hand up on Zoom.
Oh, good. Senator Dunwell?
Oh, yes. Good morning, everyone. I for being in there every Thursday morning bright and early at 7. So I am not there in person today. I am prepping for a property tax reduction for residents bill that I'm presenting this morning. So just kind of putting on finishing touches. But I told a friend of mine and then So that's unfortunate. INSEC mentioned that education, you know, K-12, higher education, whatever type of higher education one pursues, you know, it's important to our water security. And these refugees, keep in mind, these Afghan refugees, some of these people helped U.S. troops in Iraq, Afghanistan, and saved their lives. I mean, this is just not okay. And what's happening in our community, some of these forces are trying to instill fear. And sometimes that's the worst form of terrorism. And so we have to have no fear. And please, let's come together as a community and help Valerie. Here's the announcement. She is working with the school systems on a big community meeting that's going to be happening soon. So just put that on your radar, and I will keep you posted. And Valerie will hopefully maybe she can come in and make a presentation on the hotel health board. But I just wanted to put that on your radar that everything's not hunky-dory.
No.
One of the reasons I'm coming to hotel health and just to instill the fact that there are still some hunky-dory things out there, and it's wonderful. One of the reasons I'm tuning in is I want to hear Brian over this morning. Okay, so that's that.
Yeah.
Great day, everyone. Stay warm.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Dunwell. And Valerie's joined us before, and we'd love to have her again. And I know Annie's involved with the Heart Group, so let's keep our eye open for that meeting and see about a visit with Valerie again soon. We're going to get together right at 8 o'clock, a few of us, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, I said to Rick Hayes after Valerie was here last time and after Senator Dunwell talked to us that it's dangerous when you start believing your own myths, you know. And we just pat ourselves on the back all the time about being the last best place and the greatest little town on earth and all that. And a lot of that's true, but we're not perfect, not by any means. So, Annie, got something? Or Emmett. Hey.
Hi everyone, I'm a Teen Services Librarian at the Lewis and Clark Library. I just wanted to say thank you one more time for the reception you gave my Teen Advisory Board. They were so excited afterward, and you all made them feel really special and important and powerful, and that's what I spend all my time trying to do. So I really appreciate you for that and for your awesome questions to them as well, because they're all fired up and ready to run over to the legislature and start telling them what they think about everything.
Wow.
So thank you so much for that. The second thing is that we have a big author coming to town. We got CJ Box.
Oh.
So CJ Box will be coming to the Civic Center on March 31st. There will be limited tickets because we assume it'll fill up pretty quick. So you can find those tickets on the website, the library website. And I think you can also buy them through the Civic Center directly.
All right, very good. Thanks, Emmett. Those kids were wonderful. Here again, you know, I could lapse into our own mythology and say that the kids in Helena are great. You know, but it was just really neat. Ben mentioned that we've got a couple city commissioners here. Commissioner Emily Dean is here, Commissioner Shurtleff, but you know, I think if it's okay, why don't we move right into our program? Because I think our commissioners would like to hear from Mr. Adam Gill and Mr. Obert, and if it's okay, and then maybe you'll have some questions about their presentation or the things that might benefit the city at some point. How's that sound? All right. Well, Adam Gill from the State Department of Commerce is with us this morning, and without further ado, why don't we just thank him for joining us and turn it over to him. Adam, you can go talk into the mic. Go left.
All right.
You may want to take it out.
Yep.
Very.
Downside of being a bit tall is that sometimes the microphone has to come to you. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Gill. I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Facility Finance Authority. We are a self-supported enterprise fund that's attached to the Montana Department of Commerce. And to a little bit about our background. Our mission, and go to our next slide here, is to enhance Montana healthcare and community capabilities through access to cost-effective capital financing and development services. Another way of putting it is that we want to help projects get the money they need so they can do more building, more renovation, more equipping of their properties. And we've done that for 40 years with Montana's nonprofit hospitals. We help do the conduit bonding for Chaudere. We help with the bonding for the Benefis Surgical Hospital. We've done this for hospitals in Anaconda and Glendive and Havre and everywhere else in the state. And we do that through access to taxes and bonds. But what I'm here to talk about today is CPACE. CPACE, if we go to the next slide here, is called Commercial Property Assessed Capital Enhancements. And we are the administrator of the state's commercial PACE program, or as we've labeled it, the last best PACE program. Because we love a good pun. So, now what CPACE is, it's a financing structure that allows for private businesses to get private lenders, money from private lenders for energy efficiency improvements, water efficiency improvements, or renewable energy improvements that are permanent and fixed to the property. These cost-effective improvements would be things like solar panels, better insulation, HVAC systems. They're meant, and rather than being paid back through a conventional mortgage or a guarantee from the owner, they're paid back through a special assessment that goes onto the property. That way that owner, maybe they're going to be in that building for 10 years, and that investment might take 20 to pay back. This allows them to get a financing structure that is lower than the cost of their current utilities possibly, pays for itself in the long run, and when they sell that property, because maybe they're retiring or they're expanding, the subsequent owner, because it's attached to property taxes, continues those payments. It gives business owners the freedom to do major renovations and improvements without having to think, am I still going to be in this building in 20 years? Now, why is that important? Go to our next slide. It's important, and we feel it today because it's -8 outside. Wasted energy is wasted money. On average, our utility costs in the state between commercial and industrial is $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion to heat, cool, condition, light our buildings. But according to the EPA, 30% of commercial and industrial utility is wasted on inefficiency. In Montana, that means $353 million is wasted. $353 million, that could be profits, that could be wages, that could be hiring, that could be investment, that could be better inventory, that could be everything but shoving warm air into the cold outside. Or desperately trying to keep a building below 80 degrees when it's 100 outside. It could be a lot of things. It's only because these buildings are older. They weren't efficient when they were built, or they become inefficient, and they just need to be updated. And we can feel it, even anyone who's in a building, older building today, it's different today. You hear your building differently today. Because that boiler that was installed during the Nixon administration isn't running so good today, because it's running all the time. Because disco went away, but your boiler is still there. And it's struggling. And so this gives property owners a way of doing big improvements that let them stabilize the utility bills, lower the utility bills, improve their property, and do it in a way that's cost effective. Go to our next slide. Who's eligible? So many projects. Commercial, obviously it's in the name. Industrial, mixed use, so it kind of stores and homes together. Agricultural and multifamily. Multifamily is under current statutes 4 units per dwelling. We have a revision on that that's coming through, may make it to 5 units per dwelling. And which covers a lot of your low-rise apartments in Montana, the 2 or 3 story buildings that have 8 to 12 apartments in them, those are all eligible. We can do new construction, we can do renovations, retrofits. And if someone's done a project that's been placed in service in the last 3 years, we can go back and do a retroactive CPACE. So if a business owner put their own money down or got a high-cost loan to put in solar or a better boiler or whatever, we can go get a lower-cost financing for them and get some cash back out of the project for them. Go to our next slide. What measures are covered by CPACE? Well, there's the big obvious ones, solar panels, your boiler, your furnace, things like that. But it's also your building envelope. Doors, windows, and insulation. With water, your water reuse and irrigation and fixtures. Is your roof, because that's one of the big areas you can lose heat out of. It's cogeneration if you have that kind of complex setup. It's even things like elevators. I learned recently that elevators are a huge energy draw because the old ones run all the time, waiting until the motor is engaged for it to go up or down. Whereas newer ones just run the motor when it's needed. All these little tweaks, all these little changes, they add up to buildings that lose. Again, spend 30% of the utility bill being wasted. I'm going to use a good example here. This is an example out of Butte. Next slide. So this is Darius Investments. It's a wind gate over in Butte. This is a basic one, just some solar panels on a wind gate. We have a bunch of hotels that have this element. And every town does. It was a financing of $235,000 from Clearwater Credit Union over in Missoula. And they're going to save $341,000 by putting in solar panels. And not only are they saving $341,000, they stabilize the utility bill. They are able to take a utility bill that's gone up for a lot of business owners and homeowners over 25% in the last couple of years. And now they can lock in by doing mostly solar, they can lower the electricity bill dramatically. And they can make it so that their utility bill, next time it comes in at 10% higher, 3% higher, 5% higher, it doesn't hit their business the same way because they've stabilized their power supply, they've taken a variable cost and made it fixed. So how does CPACE financing work? Go to the next slide. So as I said, it finances these direct and indirect costs for water and energy consumption. It starts with what we call an energy assessment. That's where someone comes out and says, you can put on solar panels, you can improve your insulation, you can do your boiler. Here's all the things you can do. Here's what it will cost you to do it, and here's what it will save you. So the owner has an idea of what that payback is, and they can make an informed decision about what they want. With that in hand, they go talk to a contractor, they get an idea of their price. We help start talking with the bank, figure out the details. They get what's called an independent third-party review. This is a consumer protection measure. This way a contractor doesn't come in, sell them on the idea of doing a bunch of improvements that don't actually add up, and then the owner's left holding the bag. The independent third-party review is an engineer who's not attached to the project otherwise. They come in, they do a desk audit and say, yeah, this math checks out. What they want to do makes sense and it adds up and it's good. That's protection for the consumer, for the lender, for everyone involved. Then the borrower and the lender negotiate terms. This is a private market transaction. So it's between borrower and lender, the rate, the term, and other features on the financing. Our role as the administrator is just to make sure all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and everything has been, there's the mechanism for repayment to work out. Then they put in a fixed rate or variable rate financing, again, between borrower and lender, how that works. This is a really good substitute for what's called mezzanine debt, second position debt. So where you might go out and have to get a 10%, 12% loan because it's a second mortgage, or 16% loan because it'd be a second mortgage to get these improvements in place. Instead it's 7.5% or 8%. It's dramatic savings. And when they make their payment, it's what's called a special assessment. It's on the property taxes. So an additional amount that comes on a tax bill, and they make that payment routes to us, and then we route it out to the bank. The reason it routes to us instead of their county and then to the bank is that if your lender changes, if your lender sells the loan, if anything moves around, the county doesn't have to track that. That's our job. So the lender gets the money, it remits to us, and that way if there's something to deal with the lender, that's not an obligation of the county to figure out who owns that loan right now. That's our job, and that's what we're here for. So what's the role of the county in this? There we go. So CPACE assessments are entered like any other SID, RSID, RID. These process payments the same way. They have the computer systems in place. You notify the county that there's a district they put in. It takes them a couple hours up front to put that district into their system, and then every year they structure it like they do every other one that they do. Because there's lots of them for sidewalks and lighting districts and storm districts and everything else around town. And then they send the property tax bill, the borrower pays, and the rest to us, and the lender gets paid. Now, the only couple hours to enter in, we've worked with the property tax software companies that supply Montana counties. We both of them have the resources, training, material to help walk them through the process. And we walked several counties through this process. We've been successful several financings from closing up through the first set of payments. Now, there's always a question, what happens if someone doesn't pay? Because I remember talking to a lender early on in my career, and they said, there's no such thing as a bad loan. There's always good loans that go bad. And that can happen. Well, first thing to know on CPACE, what makes it unique is that because it's part of that property tax bill assessment, they can't just partially pay. They don't pay their taxes, and they don't pay everything else, and they aren't paying their CPACE assessment. But that doesn't mean that the entire amount that they borrow is due at that point. If you don't pay your mortgage for a couple of months, your bank calls the whole note, and you have to pay everything. CPACE is what's called non-accelerable. That means you only owe what is due to the bank at that point. So if you miss, if a borrower doesn't pay the property taxes, and eventually the county has to do a tax auction and all that process, it's only that tax bill, the missing one or two payments, that has to get taken out, and then it's back into normal payment process. So if the senior lender bank, that first position bank, has to do a foreclosure because everything's fallen apart, that bank only has to cover the one or two missed payments like they would normally on a tax assessment. So banks have the ability to still come in and take care of what they need to take care of. The county is not behind or owe any money to any lender because, again, this is a private market transaction. So if the borrower defaults, it's not on the city or the county or the state. It's on the borrower, not on anyone else. So we need this county involved. We need local government involved to help make this happen. Without that, without a district, we can't do CPACE projects in that area. And that's why thank you for having me out to this today, because we've had great success with the city of East Helena. We're looking forward to talking to the city of Helena. We've had success around the state, and I'll get to that in a minute. I want to know one thing first is why will local government pick up this extra work? Why would they do it besides just giving more resources for businesses? Go to our next slide. It's going to be hard to read for anyone who's not watching on Zoom, and I'm sorry for that. What this shows is the tax revenue you can gain when you do a lot of CPACE in your community. So if I have a building that has a $500,000 worth of property improvement because of CPACE, they really went out, they did better insulation, better windows, better everything, and that building is now more valuable, and its taxable base is more valuable. That $500,000 building improvement is $1,400 in county mills they make because of tax improvement. It's $179 for county schools, $1,600 for local schools just in Lewis and Clark County, $1,200 in city mills. It pays the county for them to do this. The cost of any cost that comes from them having to enter the system is largely paid for by the fact that allowing these improvements to the property improves the tax base and improves investment and gets money back to the county, back to the city. I have a great example of that here. And next slide. This is a couple different names. It's the old Soldier Building, it's a Head and Empire Building, it's in downtown Billings. And we have a lot of buildings like this in Helena and across Montana. It was over 90 years old. Because it was hard to heat and cool and keep conditioned, half of it wasn't usable, especially on the second floor. It was cold in the winter, it was hot in the summer, you stood in the right spot, you could feel the wind blow. And they needed to do significant improvements and investments. They went out looking for different financing options to help do some of the big renovations. Now they could get second position debt. The second position debt wanted 16% interest on $1.6 million. CPACE with Three Rivers Bank up in Kalispell, and along with work from Asset Environments, Montana firm, Cushing Terrell, a Montana firm, helped get everything together for a $1.6 million, 7.6% CPACE loan, less than half the rate if they'd gone to the market on their own. This $1.6 million investment in heat pumps, lighting ballasts, windows, plumbing fixtures, the kind of the bones of the building that usually get overlooked sometimes, but really matter. That makes the building more usable. That makes the building, that opens space in that building up that wasn't open before. So besides utility savings for that owner, it's revenue that he gains from being able to lease that space. Estimates now said total savings of revenue over the life of the loan, $13.5 million. A $1.6 million investment will net this building owner $13.5 million. We have a lot of 90-year-old, 100-year-old, 110-year-old buildings floating around Helena. We have the Montana Club. It's 5 stories. It's a beautiful building, and it is decades of deferred maintenance. It has new ownership. And one of the reasons it has new ownership is that decades of deferred maintenance made it really hard to run the building. So CPACE is a fantastic way to take an old building like that, do the dramatic changes that need to happen to bring it up to date, to make it cost effective, to make it efficient, and make that an investment in the community. And that gets to where we are now. Go to our next slide. So on this map, again, I apologize for those in the room who maybe it's a little distant. All those little blue dots on the map are counties that authorize CPACE. And Lewis and Clark counties that are surrounded by counties that have authorized CPACE. Jefferson, let's see here, even it's fallen line, Powell, Cascade, Broadwater, Jefferson. Flathead County has said no, the city of Whitefish, the city of Kalispell have said yes. We have districts across Montana, and we have about 66% of commercial buildings in the state are covered by CPACE that have access to it if they want it. We've been talking to Lewis and Clark County for a couple of years. We came to them when we first launched the program. They said, this is new, it's nice, but we want some time on it. So we gave them time. We did projects around the state. We did the Bridger Brewing project that allows further development down by Bridger Brewing in Broadwater County. We did a few hotels in Butte and Bozeman. We did the Old Soldier project in Billings. We're closing on another project in Bozeman here in about a week or two, if everything goes well in timing. And we came back to the county, and we sat down with the county the treasurer, the administrator, and the county commissioners individually, and we can never get them to commit to a time and a date to move this forward. But thankfully, we had a lot of good luck with the city of East Helena. We have City Commissioner Wes Feist here, and I want to say thank you again for having us out just a couple of nights ago. The city of East Helena is looking to move forward on CPACE because East Helena is open for business, and once it's available for businesses into that growing community. We have some folks from Helena. I'm looking forward to presenting to the Helena City Commission on February 19th. And I'm pretty certain Helena will be open for business. We have these buildings that just need this work, need this attention. And I'm hoping that with East Helena and Helena doing this, and the county kind of having to do the paperwork anyways because they're doing this, the county will come along too. Because we have a lot of businesses in the North Valley, a lot of businesses in Montana City, a lot of businesses in places, well, that's Jefferson County, a lot of businesses in other areas around here that could use this and benefit from this. And they just need access to the market. And that's all CPACE is. It's another way for a private borrower and a private lender to find a marketplace together. And we just need government to give them the room to do that. So if you have any more information, I have a last slide here. More information, our website is www.lastbestpace.com. We're happy to answer questions, happy to sit down on a project. Even if you're super early in and you're still writing on a bar napkin about what you want to do, give us a call. We're happy to talk, happy to refer you to resources, happy to find you some way of getting to money. You know, we spend a lot of time talking through projects, and sometimes we talk ourselves out of it because we help them find money from other sources that are even better. And we're happy to do that. So if anyone has any questions, just please get in touch. We're more than happy to talk. Thank you.
That's amazing. As a city or a county that wanted to authorize this would do so by resolution, the standard, yeah, okay. I mean, that's fairly simple. Sounds simple. Anyway, but Brian Obert is with us. Why don't we just keep rolling? Brian, you might have, I think this is very complimentary to your work with the Montana Business Assistance Connection, MBAC.
Thanks for coming this morning.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm going to start with a little story. I drive an old Swedish car. It's great on ice and snow. It's cheap to run, but it hates to start after about 10 below zero. And as I went to bed last night, my old weather station was showing 10 below, and the wind would come up, and then it actually goes to offline, but it's so old that it now says awful. So all night I'm sitting there, is it going to start so I can get here to be in front of you? And it just kept flashing awful to me all night. So I did make it, it started, it's cheap. What I want to do is add in, we've been working with Adam, the Townsend Hospital, the White Sulphur Springs Hospital, with what they do with the community or the Finance Authority. We see great value to it, and I do want to call out, as I drive in every morning, I see Joe Mitchell's big old mug on that billboard in East Helena. Things are happening in East Helena, and I want to say, as much as Adam kind of suggested it, East Helena is a place that's open for business right now. And if I'm from Helena, keep your eyes open, because they are moving and shaking right now. It's really sexy to be in East Helena. So, a lot coming from me with this hairdo. Brian Obert's the Executive Director at Montana Business Assistance Connection, which used to be Gateway Economic Development Corporation, which used to be HADCO years ago. So Helena Area Development Corp. At the end of this year, it'll be 20 years that I've been working for this organization. So with a lot of work from my predecessors and everything, I do have to give you a shout out. We hired, actually Terry Myrie hired on an old, and I'm going to call him that, an old fart banker, Mark Menke, to come in and do work for us. At that point, in 2012, we had 34 commercial loans and 186 DEQ loans. They're alternative energy loans, put solar panels up on your roof and everything else. We had about $6.6 million out. We had about $3 million available to lend. 12 years later, we've got $12.8 million out on the street and $3 million to lend right now. So if you put the right people with the right mission and then let them do their job and get me out of the way to come to things like this, things happen. So as an economic development agency, we have a community development side and a lending side. And I just talked about $12 million, almost $13 million on the street. That's just on our books. At the same time, we've been working for years with our counterparts, and we call them our friends, another economic development agency over in Lewistown. We've been working with them. They hold the money, but we've been doing EPA brownfield work. So Mr. Day and what we did with the Helena Food Share, sitting on an old brownfield, the old Carrot property, that was money that was lent and granted to get that cleaned up so we can have this beautiful facility right here next door. Those are the things that happen. Recently, we've been working with our partners all the way up in Havre on a USDA loan program for meat and poultry facilities. That was a $10 million award for Butte, Helena, Great Falls, and Havre, our regions of economic development. Of that $10 million right now, we have almost $5 million of that earmarked for Lewis and Clark County by itself. So that $12.8 million is just on my books. There's another probably $6 to $8 million that we have landed into our area, which drives our economy. So again, let my people do the work, get me out of their way, and things happen. I have some leadership here from the board of directors that just go do our stuff. Part of how we drew that money, some of it came from the Department of Commerce. There's some new money that has come through. We call it growth funds. It used to be the Big Sky Trust Fund. That is kind of earmarked. What we're doing is earmarked for machinist manufacturing type businesses. So we're pushing that out right now. We just received some additional money from the Department of Commerce for revolving loan funds for tourism organizations. So we've got a fairly good chunk of money sitting right now that, as an organization, we traditionally partner with our banks. We take a second and a little more risk, we're a little more expensive. Right now, with these revolving loan funds for tourism, our goal is to try to create more facilities that create a sense of place that people would come to our region. My region is the Lewis and Clark, Broadwater, Marr County. We do a lot of work in Jefferson County. So I've got some money sitting in there. In the next couple of weeks, you're going to start to hear some projects that are going to get earmarked that are a go for this year. That's money being put on the ground to push us going forward. Now I'm going to kind of come back. We're in interesting times right now. There's a lot of disruption, and the younger generation and the YouTube generation, the disruptors that are coming through. Disruption creates opportunity, but what it also does, it creates winners and losers. And I think that's the one thing we need to understand is we're in the Helena area. There's actually a lot of good things. In the middle of disruption, there are things that are going on here. We've got a, $110, $120 million museum that will start to open by the end of this year and then kind of be fully open next year. That's a jolt to our economy around here. The mine in White Sulphur Springs has made it through their last hurdle to be able to do the tunnel mine for copper, because we all have things like this that have copper in it. That is going to be a jolt to our economy. So when the rest of the world is trying to figure out winners and losers because of disruption, we're going to have this base load of new energy and income coming in that should be able to get us through that point. But I think the key is we have to not kind of turtle up. This is the point where, as a community, because we have this base income coming in, it's time for us to actually kind of put a little put our foot on the gas a little bit going forward. Right now is our time to be able to do that and move ourselves forward. So just think about that. We have a $240 million copper mine going in just over the mountain from us right here. They need steel, they need to move dirt, which means they need equipment, they need a bunch of cement, which means, Portland cement, we have Montana City right down here, we have Folsom over here, and then they're going to need a lot of people, which means they need housing. Housing is going to be just horrible, but you can't not have impact to Bozeman, Helena, Townsend, Livingston, Harlow, Belt. All of those communities are going to be impacted from the contractors coming in as they drill that hole to be able to create that mine and then start to extract copper, which then has to go to some railhead, which then has to go to the West Coast to go somewhere to be smelted. So that's a big anchor of additional income and additional energy that's coming in. So having access to capital, which right now obviously our capital markets, money's expensive, having additional access to capital, like what Adam is doing with CPACE, and for Marianne Dunwell, what Adam is going to be putting out there to create the access for conduit bonding through the Montana Facility Finance. Those are all opportunities. Andy knows him. My counterpart out in Colstrip is Jim Atchison. He comes to meetings like this and he brings up his red toolbox and he says, all you need to do is give me the tools to go inside this toolbox so I can help businesses do their job. And that's what we're looking for right now, are more tools into our toolbox. And what Adam has with CPACE is one thing, this conduit bonding is another, but we have opportunities to move ourselves forward. Dr. Seck talking about importing talent, workforce, housing, childcare. Kelly, we know all about these things, trying to get people to those jobs, trying to get people to then have some place to live. We see it in Bozeman because it's visible. Every one of those trailers, people think those are homeless people. These are engineers. These are people who are high paid who can't find a house. They could afford it, but they can't find it. So they're living in a trailer and they're working, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and then they're in the oil field, we call it hot swapping of beds. They're doing that with trailers. We don't realize that we're doing that here also. It isn't quite as obvious. Where I'm going with this is opportunity disruption creates winners and losers. I'm going to step back just a little bit. Every 4 years, not-for-profits struggle. In election cycles, people take some of that discretionary dollars and they drop it into election coffers to be able to send us a lot of paperwork in the mail that may or may not make it out of the building because we throw it out already. So a lot of our not-for-profits have been seeing a reduction in 2024. Problem is then disruption is very difficult for our not-for-profits. And the one thing we appreciate about Helena is we're a very giving community. I would say we're very giving, and we have a lot of not-for-profits, a lot of social groups, a lot of groups that make this a place you want to live. They're in stress right now. Financially, it is tough. It's going to be a tough year. Disruption in that group, because they don't have a lot of money sitting in the bank, it's going to be a tough year. And I do want to just warn you, there are going to be a lot of not-for-profits, whether it's in Helena or other areas, that are going to go out of business. So that we're going to have people who aren't doing their mission and people who are looking for jobs. I hate to be the person that says it, but we may need to be thinking about picking winners and losers. Those organizations which have flourished in Helena with our great gratitude and our amount of money that we give, but we spread it pretty thin across a lot of not-for-profits, service groups. You know, having 15 that just have enough to go bankrupt, or 10 who have enough to actually make it, is going to be some decision-making that's going to happen this year. And Emily, I keep looking at you. It's tough. It is really tough out there. We are going to continue to have opportunities in the area, but the services, how we deliver services is changing. Whether we like it or we don't like it, it doesn't make a difference. It is changing, and we have to control that. So be thinking about the mission. As an organization, we're talking to the not-for-profits. You need to be selling your wealth, what you create as value for a community. And value is a lot of different things. It isn't only money, it's a lot of other things. We need people to feel happy to be here, because we want them that do want to be here to then go out and spend money and time to go climb a wall over in a building over here, which is a business that makes money in the 6th Ward. That's how we make things work. Other things that you aren't hearing, and I don't see Howard in the room, there's been a lot of talk about Colstrip and Seattle, Portland, Avista not wanting to continue to get electricity from coal. Those electrons that they're seeing they don't like. Okay, that's an opportunity going forward. So the end of 2025, there's a large portion, percentage of that Colstrip plant is now going to become energy that is available to someone. We don't have a lot of ways to get that out of the state, so we're going to have an excess amount of energy. I don't know if anybody else noticed that we've been tracking it very closely. Northwestern Energy in the last couple of weeks have announced 2 different firms that are going to be doing data centers using some of that excess energy. Colstrip has got one more really good kind of shove to move our economy forward. So we're seeing I think it's about 125 megawatts of power that has been announced to go to data centers. And these aren't crypto mining. This is AI data centers that are going to be working for Google, Meta, Amazon. Remember, for every megawatt that goes in of power into a data center, there's anywhere between $5 and maybe $9 million worth of data center that's attached to that. So what you didn't notice is you just heard of about $1 billion worth of investment over the next 2 years in Montana because 125 megawatts of Colstrip have now become available. And there's a lot of talk that this is just the beginning to that. Again, I'd love to give Howard a bad time. You've got to remember there's an opportunity in Montana. We're always looking for our opportunities. Montana Power Company had a great idea. They were going to create Touch America. It was going to be their fiber connectivity from Seattle to Chicago. They're going to get everybody this new thing called fiber. and they were about 15 years too soon. So in 2000, 25 years ago, which is amazing, they pulled between Touch America, AT&T, and a few others, they pulled 3 big conduits through the state of Montana. We've got potentially 900 strands of fiber that have been sitting in that ground, mostly dark, for many years. If you have fiber connection and power, Google wants to talk to you. Now, this creates some other issues, the PSC, I mean, as the state grows, where does our power come from, all of those things. But right now, we're talking potentially billions of dollars of investment, potentially landing in the state of Montana right now, when we're in this flux every place else. That doesn't hurt us very badly. I mean, that's a good thing. That drives the economy. Or it won't. So that's always going to be the thing. We have a little bit right now. $1 billion is a little bit of investment. But as we move forward, that could be a lot more. If we don't become one of those organizations or states that have taken advantage of that, then we are at risk to be forgotten about. So they're going to go someplace else. I mean, they're trying to open up 3 Mile Island right now. They're really turning over every rock for every opportunity. This could be, and I don't know if everybody is aware, but over in Mark County, Martinsdale, there's a pumped hydro project that has been proposed for years. Carl Bergquist has been kind of putting that, FERC has put their name on it, saying we love that opportunity, but we've never been able to create a power purchase agreement. This is that weird opportunity where timing and opportunity come together. I mean, that's a $1.4 billion investment in Mark County that could happen right away. So, there's a lot of things going on. I won't talk too much about the legislation, but Adam has something going forward. We love CPACE. It's more access, it's more tools inside our toolbox. City of East Helena is appearing to be going to move forward because they're open for business. We're hopeful that the City of Helena will follow suit. I mean, we've been very active in the Montana Club. We would really love to see some new ice equipment out at the ice skating rink, because that's now aged, and the newer equipment could save them a ton of money. So we see some opportunities coming in. And Adam, how much did you put into these sewer plants in Bridger Brewing?
That was about $5.5 million in CPACE, and with how they structured it, it's going to save 300 million gallons of water, and it's going to save them about $10 million in terms of savings and revenue over the next 20 years.
So, having an engineering background, I love sewer plants. I just think that's sexy as anything. And what I like about this is the sewer plant is small, it's modular. I look at Wes, I look at Adam, or Andy and Emily. When you build something, you have to build it for 20 years from now. It's a big, and East Helena, how much money did you guys spend on that sewer plant to be able to treat copper, to discharge into the creek? It's very expensive. So this is a small modular plant that we can buy, put into a building and work. When the water comes out, after we've flushed our toilets, you can drink that water. And they're now pushing it back through the business park to be used for fire suppression and for watering the lawns, potentially for heavy industry. So being thoughtful, and if you, I mean, the old adage, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. If you didn't notice it, DNRC is really under the gun right now. So these are, I mean, there's a lot of great things. I won't go on anymore because I see people standing up because I can go forever. But just once again, look at Jeff and just thank what they've been doing out there. The opportunity for a town this size, I watch some of our counterparts, Idaho Falls, Twin Falls, they're losing the number of flights. We're gaining the number of flights. That's because we as a community have worked with an organization that has kept the mission in the right direction. So, just things going on.
Well, thank you very much, Brian and Adam. We've got a lot to think about, and it's all good. So I guess leave you as you go on about your day. I'm sure that this will come to mind, these presentations and the wisdom and information that's been imparted this morning. I guess for me the take-home message is East Helena is sexy. I had not heard that before. That's a new one. But it's true. It's very true. Wes, thanks for being here. Emily, commissioners, I'm sorry the clock ran out, but lots to think about. We'll catch up with you next week.